You're welcome.
Thank you very much for giving me floor to express myself. So I will present farmer perception of climate change and climate variability versus climatic evidence in Burkina Faso, West Africa. This is a paper already submitted in Climate and Development by myself, John Lama, William Fonta, and Mark Miller. So I will present first the context and problem, method and data, and then we conclude with results. So I think it's not enough to say that in Burkina Faso, livelihood of rural population is now based on agriculture, and agriculture is now the sector who are very, very risky, a high risk. And in Burkina Faso, you can see that the sector of agriculture, about 19%. Here I highlight 86% of the population, and employ and give income for about 19% of the population. And the total exportation, here, raw input, it's about 80%, and participate of almost 40% of GDP. But I already said that the agriculture sector is highly risky, and it has also some constraints. So we can highlight the low productivity of this sector, and also we have a high population growth. In Burkina Faso, we have almost 3% per year of population growth. And we have also a widespread poverty. We have soil degradation, and the use of fertilizer is also still low. If we compare in the Asia or Latino America, in Asia we have almost, 200 kilograms per hectare, and in Latino America we have almost 100, if we have a comparison. And this risk in agriculture will be almost exacerbated by climate change. Here, I try to show a map of migration of Israelites in Burkina Faso. We can say that in the 1950, from 1950 to 1980, you can say that Israelites for, around 600, were in the north, and then now we have a migration, from the north to the south. This means that climate change will pose a serious threat of the sector of agriculture, because this sector is rely on because there is no irrigation, so we have only rain-fed agriculture. And the NAPA also program highlight that the temperature will rise about 0.8 from now to 2025. And we will have also a drop in rainfall by 3.4% from now to 2025. So I'm talking about the risk on agriculture, and how to manage this risk is now pose a serious challenge of several institutions in Burkina Faso and the government. And we are thinking that perception of farmer is also a key element if we want to do some negotiation and also adaptation measure. We have to know how farmers are thinking about climate perception and how farmers are thinking about climate change and climate variability. Then the research question that we can raise here is, do farmers in Southern region aware of climate change and climate variability, and what are their perception? And we would like also to compare this kind of perception of farmer with historical meteorological data, because sometimes the measure and then the way they adopt the strategy of adaptation, and then the way they implement the measure, the adaptation measure are sometimes based on meteorological data and satellite, things. So now we would like to compare if farmers comparing having perception of climate change is same with meteorological data. The objective is to assess farmer awareness and perception and to compare their perception with historical official meteorological data. And we use time series data from 1917 to 2010. This data concern mostly rainfall, temperature, insolation, speed of wind. And then it is the first time, so we would like to have only a picture. It was in 2012. Then we went to in 2 villages and we surveyed 25 households per village. It was in Batiara and Pontieba. And we use also focus group discussion and SPSS for analyzing and entering our data. So here I'm highlighting the 2 villages where we went. So this is also a map of Dano. It is Dano, it's not Dana, sorry. So where WASCAL is now focusing, because in WASCAL we have we are focusing now on 3 basins. It is Southwest and Burkina Faso, Northern Ghana, and Northern Benin. But now we are focusing on the Dano Basin. So analyzing scientific data, we can see that the temperature is rising. So, and farmer also highlight about 55% highlight that temperature is rising. I mean 19.5, because we have 25% who told us that they are aware of climate change through media. We have 45 through oral source like cabaret when they are taking local beer. And we have also 52 who say that climate change is a natural process. And we have 48 who say that it is cultural and religious factors. And here we try to have a figure of variability of rainfall. The data are from 19 to 2020. And we can see that the amount of rainfall is regressing. And also farmers saw that about 97% highlight that the rainfall, the rainy days are decreasing, and also the amount of rainfall. And we can see that there is a collaboration between farmer perception and climatic data according to the variability of rainfall. And again, here, we base always our graph on the time series data. And here we would like to see the probability of day in the Dano area, in the southwest area, to be dry. And we can see that at the beginning of the rainy season, the probability to have a dry day is very high. So, and if we move to June and August, we can see that the probability to have a rainy day become the same. But if we have 1 millimeter per day, this means that we don't have a lot of rainfall. So only 1 millimeter. But if we move to 5 millimeter, we can see that the probability to have a dry will become higher, and the probability to have rainy season become lower. And if we have also moved to 10 millimeter per day, so we can see that it is quite different. And we also try to see the period of long dry spell. This is in Gawa, and we can say that long dry spells are occurred during the sowing period. This is on April and May, and during the harvesting period, this can occur by September or October for almost crops in the southwest Burkina Faso. And we try also to see according to the speed of winds, and we can see that it is going up, the speed of wind. And the farmer also highlight that almost, 96% highlight that the wind also, the speed of wind is going up and it's destroy crops and the house. And they highlight also that a wind can break down some trees and then to damage all the crops. And we have also a look on insolation. and we can see that we have also a quite, installation is going down, but farmer highlight that installation is increasing. We have 5% farmer who thought that installation is increasing, and the rest thought that they don't know. So they can see that the installation, but they don't know, they cannot say anything. So we try to map all the farmer perception and the monitoring data. For rainfall, the monitoring data so that we have a decrease, even if this decrease can be explained by maybe the last decade, but not only the 4 decades. And farmer also highlights a decrease on rainfall. For the temperature, we have an increase, and farmer also highlights an increase for temperature. For insolation, we have the decrease of monitoring data, and it is the same of farmer perception. And means we have also the same rainy season, the length of rainy season, it is the same, it is decreasing, and the dry season length also is decreasing. And for wind load, we saw the opposite. So the monitoring data saw an increase, and the farmer saw a decrease. The outstanding research activities. So we have a manuscript right now submit for climate and development, and we are undertaking right now some similar activity with collaboration with the Ministry of Agri, Planet Guarantee, Ministry of Finance, and another NGO in the region with a large number of farmers, because now we would like to design crop insurance schemes and to prepare report and policy brief and draft at least 3 international journal articles. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a question?
I just have a short question.
Yeah.
So you use meteorological data like wind speed. Have you considered wind direction? Because maybe it can have an influence where the wind is coming from, so from north or from south. So have you think about to use more meteorological variables, or?
Yeah, the direction.
Wind direction, right.
I mean, it is from east to west. I'm not, sure,
Always?
but I mean, we only did take the speed, but I didn't care, but I mean from east to west.
Because usually you have something like windrow size. That means the possibility or the direction you have the wind from with wind speed, because it can change, I think.
Yes, it can change, yeah.
So this could be from interest, or this could be interesting for the studies, for the study you've done. So
maybe, I can see. Yeah, it can change. Maybe we have to check it, but now I didn't check. I didn't. I have the data from the speed of the wind, and then I try to have a statistic. How the speed is going on. Yeah.
But maybe for the future it can be.
Yes. Yeah, it can be interesting to see from east for west or from north. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Thank you. We try.
The first thing is that I think we should talk more in WASCAL. That's my first impression. And it's a pity that you have already submitted that, because your sample size is not very big. Yeah. But Julia, for instance, worked with the same thing. She worked with a different methodology, like this consensus analysis and everything. But she also has data on perceptions and different things and non-media access and everything. And we could have made the paper, give the paper a broader base. So maybe if it comes in the revision process, we can still add other data. I think Aminata has collected data like this in the region. Michael has collected data in the region. So we could put it on a broader base. I think that would be more interesting. Then another very general thing. Sometimes I feel we should talk to neuroscientists, because I mean, people always report there's stronger winds, there's more wind and everything, but can you actually sense it? I don't know. I really wonder. It's the same with the increase of temperature. Yeah, I mean, you can experience extreme events, but can you really feel whether there is 1 second a meter or 1.5 seconds? Is it really possible to feel the sense? I have my doubts. I think that's also a discussion we should get into. And yeah, that was my two comments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I don't know how you are asking questions to farmer to get the perception. Whether is it the last 10 years, 20 years, or...
No, it was the last 30 years. Because we cannot talk about climate change based our perception on 10 or 15 years.
Yes, but because some people are saying farmers, they can remain something over 20 years. That's one aspect. The second aspect is on, yes, the parameters you use are good for perceptions, using based on the climatological data. But you should also look at the start of the rainy season, because it's very key for agriculture. That at which the rainy season starts, because it's the parameter which influence more the growth, the length of the rainy season. So there are a lot of studies show that the start of the rainy season is the parameter which influence the length of the rainy season. And then for farmers, because of different varieties they are using, so it's very important to know, to have an idea of the length of the rainy season. So, and the third one is, you see, since you are showing the R square, so it's also important to indicate that the trend are, because they are not significant. So, and then you are showing the R square. So it's better to you yourself to say, to tell the readers that the trend are indicative trend. They are not significant, they are just indicators that can help to give an idea of what is the behavior of climate in the area.
Yeah.
So this is what
yeah, thank you. I mean, you are talking about the start of the rainy season. Yes, I mean, this is, I can say, this was a survey to get a picture of farmer perception. But we are doing also more in the same region, and now we are looking on the start of crop season, maize, cotton, sorghum, and so. And we are also basing our study on agronomy, because we have a lot of methods. We are saying that by maybe rainfall below or, I don't know, or higher than 5 millimeters per day, we can say that the rainy season is starting. We have several methods. Meteorological method in Burkina Faso is different from the agronomic method. So now we are thinking about how to choose the right method. So this is a beginning, and yeah, we are going on, and then we will take it account. Thank you.
Yes. I would like to know whether you can also already say how farmers, in which way they are adapting in the way they do agriculture, whether they choose other types of crops, other varieties, anything about how they adapt, of course?
Yes, of course. We have some strategies of coping strategy in this region, and we can have stone bank. We are doing stone bank to cope with, and we have also some, what can I say, some improved seeds, for maize. There are some seeds who have a very short length, then they are adapting also with this kind of improved seed. And we have also a kind of credit, I can say, calling warrantage. This is also to cope, to have a capital, because if you don't have capital, then you cannot have improved seed, and you cannot also have maize with a very short length. So we have a kind of banking cereals calling warranties. So you have to put your bag of cereal, and then you can grab some money for your improved seed, for fertilizer, and then if you pay back, then you can grab your cereal. So we have some kind of method, but here we are collecting their perception and the meteorological data.
Yeah, Mine is more or less like a suggestion. Maybe you've already submitted your manuscript already.
Yeah.
I would suggest that considering the issue about R square, it's a suggestion. I mean, you can take it into consideration if you like. I would suggest maybe you shouldn't show it in the graph, because if you look at the blue line, which shows that shows maximum temperature, the R square is equals to 0.044, which shows that about, let's say, 44% accounts for the variation, or should I say, so it's not that significant. So that's my suggestion. Maybe you should just hide and then maybe provide explanation.
Okay.
Maybe that would.
Yeah, but also presenting results with very high R square is no longer fashionable.
That's true.
So that is number one. If you present results with 0.8% R square, I don't think, if I'm an editor reviewing a paper, I would question all the significance of the variable. It is spurious.
But look, the R square also explains the variation.
Yeah, but very low R square would explain for cross-sectional data. It is difficult to have very high R square for cross-sectional data. Any economist will tell you that. GB, you can agree with me?
Well, yes, to a certain extent.
And particularly for time series.
Variation there.
So, no, look, don't forget about the variation. Generally, when you present results with very high R square, it is questionable. That's the first thing. Go to your literature and read. It's no longer fashionable to present results with 0.9, 0.10. Those are falsified results, if you read your literature.
So, any suggestion I made?
Yeah, but I'm just also that it's important also to read the literature and understand some of these trends. You don't look at very high R squares.
Yes. Just in general, I mean, using historic trends, I mean, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, we did it a lot and we will continue to do so. But what should also be noted is that the climate change projections from the regionalized climate models are now available. I will show you later. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, the trends are historical. Yeah, so if that continues until mid of the century, it's highly questionable. Yeah, it doesn't make the model results necessarily more valid. Yeah, but still the mechanisms implied in the model, in the simulation results, are more reliable than just a trend increase. And the concerning temperature, for instance, I mean, I think all the climate models, also the regional one, not also the global, but also the regional ones for West Africa, point into increasing temperatures. Yeah. That's about the only thing they agree on.
Maybe I just have a question in terms of the way you capture the perception in your modeling process, right? Is it through what? Through utility function, or through, how did you capture the perception? Or you capture perception through survey-based data you got in asking people on the ground what they have perceived in terms of climate variability?
Yes, here we didn't use any model. We use Excel for statistical analysis, SPSS for statistical analysis, but for farmer perception, we just ask questions. Yeah, for the last 30 years, yeah, how do you perceive temperature? And then we capture the response. And then we had also a group discussion, focus group discussion to capture the response. And then we try to do statistic, only statistic.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. In your qualitative data collection, did people mention anything about the increasing intensity or frequency of extreme weather events such as heat waves, floods, droughts? Did anything of that appear? Yes,
they mentioned the occurrence of drought and flood, but in this region, it is drought. Almost, yeah, mentioned that drought is occurring more than floods. So, yeah, we base also our method to design the climate insurance I was talking about on drought. We will make drought scenarios, but not flood, because in that region we have a lot of drought, yeah, and drought spell. We are damaging their crops.
Yeah. Maybe you can still say a few words about cultural and religious factors. that you mentioned 48% mentioned cultural and religious factors. Maybe you can just say a few things about that.
About public media and no, what?
No, the 48% of cultural and religious factors.
Yeah, yeah. They told us that as now farmer don't believe. Yeah, they told us that we don't now believe of our ancestral practice, and then God is now angry, and then there is no more rain because God doesn't want to give rain now, and then he's punishing pupils, and we don't respect anymore religion. We don't. They are trying to say that it is religious factors. So God doesn't like people right now, so there is no rain, there is no food. It is the same.
But you also analyze them and put them in the paper.
Yes, I analyze them.
Yes, I just come back to the question of Lawali. I think it's a very interesting question when he said that people can't remember far from 30 years about what happened. Sometimes it's very difficult, or maybe you may to find a kind of wise man, but maybe what should be interesting is to use what they call event history. You can date those things. Like in Benin, I was talking to old people, and when I asked them like 15 years ago, they couldn't remember, but I could tell them, just explain a kind of droughts you have lived, in the past, or some events that in the past may also help those people to remember. So I was tracing people coming from Burkina Faso and other countries, and I was asking them why they are coming. So most of them, they couldn't, at the end they couldn't know. But you have to make them aware about some events, social event that happened, or physical event, or I think they will come often, these kind of things.
Okay.
But also, as he said, I think it's a bit difficult to.
We didn't, but in the selection of the farmer, I can say that it is randomly selected. They are randomly selected, but there are also a little bit criteria, because we were going to farmer who are more experienced, in farming. So they are at least 50 years, and maybe 30 years in farming system. But when we were trying to ask questions, they know, they get response and tell us that 30 years passed, we have rain come, and then the rainy season was not short, it was long, and then they try to explain, and then we capture.
Well, I believe here, because I can imagine that they are farmer, and it is their principal activity, and
exactly.
They have to every day thinking about the condition and situation. That is a good advice.
Maybe, exactly,
Yes.
I have two questions which touch on previous questions. The first is, you started your presentation by saying one of the problems was that productivity was low. But do you know what's happened with productivity over that same period, and how that might influence farmer perceptions? And the second point was, it's a kind of interesting process which has been overlooked, how communities spread information and how things become viral. I have the sense that you suggest that farmers respond, their perceptions about where they have to do with individual experiences, and that's kind of what you point to. Do we actually feel these kind of temperature rises? But it might also be interesting to look at, but how does that information become an accepted truth within a community?
So I didn't get your question. You are asking about why productivity are low, or
no, I'm asking what happened to productivity over that same period from 1970 to 1910, and how that might influence what kind of influences has that had on farmer perception?
Well, you know, if you have a look on the statistic data for yields, you know, you can see like a tooth. Yields are growing sometimes. This means that we have bad season and we have good season. But if you ask to farmer, what is explaining by, what is the understanding by bad and good season, then they rely to bad productivity, to bad yields. So this means that anything which happen to their yields is immediately considering like a bad season. But if you come to meteorological data, this bad season doesn't mean that low yields, but maybe low rainfall. And the productivity are going down because the productivity is sometimes compared like the amount of yield per hectare, and also it can be the amount of yield per capita. And if you take the amount by yield per capita, it is low because we have a population growth. The population is growing fast than the yields. You know, yields are growing, this year it is high and another year it is low. And then if you take the mean, you can see that the productivity are low, even if per capita or per hectare, it is low. Because we are also highlighting the soil degradation. Soil is becoming bad because we have high population, and then the soil is not changing and population is still changing. So the productivity is still low in this kind of region, even if in all Burkina Faso productivity are staying low. And pupils, farmers are maybe relying bad productivity, bad season to yield crop, but not to rainfall, like meteorological.
We had an interesting discussion about the same idea yesterday with on your poster, because you found that farmers they underestimate the quantity of rainfall, and we wondered why is that in northern Ghana, and we also thought, oh, maybe it is because productivity has changed. Maybe if the yields are lower, they think, oh, it's because of the quantity of rainfall also. So I think it is something that needs more.
But it may even have to do with the price. If prices drop, might be income which is changing perception. So there's many variables in that process which could influence, I guess, farm perception.
Yeah, it's probably not that only that perception that really you see the rain and then you know how many millimeters.
Yeah, you are talking about prices, but look, if we have in that region and even in Burkina Faso, if you have a good season, this means that you have a good yield, and then you can have a high quantity of cereals. But in that time, you will have low prices, and then you cannot have a high income. And it is the same. It is a vicious circle. And if you have bad season, you don't have a lot of cereals, but the price are going high. So this is also another point that maybe policymaker and stakeholder have to deal with. Maybe, to help a little bit farmer.
And maybe to add up another thing, if you look at environmental perception studies coming from anthropology, which has also a long tradition, there is a general tendency to put more emphasis on bad events. So if you have like, it's very general, but when you look at seasonality or rainfall, so if it's a year with good rainfall, people would rather consider it a normal year. Because it's just normal. I mean, it didn't disturb anyone, it's just normal. Whereby if there's less rainfall, it's a bad year. I mean, there are more reports on bad things than on good things. So there's a tendency to emphasize the things that cause damage.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I may raise a point, I mean, to join what you just said and what the gentleman there said. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen the modeling process itself, but introducing bad events in models like these is a bit difficult because it's just like having some static points, and here the objective is having a time series data. And I think in terms of combining analysis and analysis using a time series data is to a certain extent, I mean, you can correct, of course, if I said something wrong, it's a bit different. Yeah, matching long-term serial data with events which occur in a particular period of time. Yeah, and I have also I don't know if I can call it a question or a comment. I think perception itself may also depend on other factors which are not necessarily climate oriented. Yeah, and I think maybe there is also, I mean, you can discuss it later on. Maybe there is a window there to see, for instance, how you can approach that the work in that angle. Yeah. Because, I mean, if you ask to a farmer questions with regard to his or her perception 30 years ago, yeah, a lot of things may have happened during that period of time which are not correlated to climate at all. And these things also may definitely impact on the level and the scope, even the scale of the productivity in his or her farming activities.
I think we can allow one more question to be in time. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, it fits very good to what you have said. An example for this may be the perception of wind speed. You brought on the slide. So we had also results from the NICO project that there have been reforestation programs in the area. So local areas with more trees currently, but more trees now than in the past. So even if the wind speed is increasing in general, but in these local environments, wind speed can be lower because of that there are more trees. Yeah. So there can be a contradiction between perception and scientific data because of local effects, and this has nothing to do with climate. This has something to do with policy, with reforestation programs, for example, or total other programs. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to, perhaps it is very interesting to look for the local conditions where people live and what have been changing in the last decades, which can influence perhaps also the perception and things how they are going.
Thank you. We thank you, Mrs. SANFO.